Hi, I'm Brent Watters, Head of Marketing and Sales for IMSS. And today I'm speaking with our founder and CEO, Patricia O'Donnell. You may have seen our first interview with Patricia, where she talked about her personal journey in building IMSS. And we thought that was important so you kind of could understand the background, the motivation, the vision that brought IMSS to life. And we definitely want to dive more into the products and the way we come to market and have a better understanding of that. So I'd like to take that deeper dive and take a minute now. And Patricia, thank you for joining me this morning and taking time so we can, really shed light on what differentiates our offerings in the market and how it does help the companies and clients we serve.
I get very excited when we get to talk about Data-Centrix. It was an amazing project that I was excited to build, and so I'm excited just to share more about it.
Yeah, yeah, and with that, I guess diving right in. IMSS was founded to address the challenges managers face with consultant database reporting, of course. Um, could you explain what inspired this focus and how it ties into the overall mission?
So the biggest challenge managers have, I think, there's a couple of them. It's that, having the resources and the time to devote to all of that data collection and then the reporting out. And if they're manually doing it, it takes a lot of time. I know it because I've done it for years, and I did it when I started IMSS.
Right.
And I realized that to be more competitive and to do a better job for our clients and to expedite what we were doing, I needed to build technology to automate that. With that, it also was built with managers in mind, right? Because we wanted to ease the process on the managers on the backside with data collection. It streamlined their process. It also helped them clean up their internal processes so that the data that they were putting out was solid and it was meaningful. And we were capturing so many more data sets than they were actually reporting, initially with most of our managers.
Right. And in our conversation with you earlier about your personal journey too, you kind of started as administrative assistant and saw from that whole back office, that whole process of what, from back office to, the reporting and customer facing, and you got to see everything and where those sticking points or those challenges
Right.
were and the overwhelming tasks that some of these offices face. So I take it some of that fed into how can I make it easier for these companies.
Absolutely. It absolutely fed into it because I was doing that work too. I would get these massive files and I was having to break them down every which way you could even imagine. And it was so, so time consuming. And so I decided Data-Centrix would be built to ease the burden on the managers on their time and resources, and to also, expedite the process. And so I literally built it internally with a team by taking every data point that there was across all of the databases, every breakdown that they needed, and built out these very intuitive templates that significantly reduced the time on managers, not just collecting the data for us, but the way it dispersed and automated out to the databases.
Right, right. And again, it's a very robust platform, very accurate in the way it handles that data and reports out. Um, and we did talk a little bit, and maybe that becomes the answer, but we did talk about, well, there's the technology and then there's the service portion of IMSS. But I guess what I really want to get to is, how would you say IMSS differentiates itself from other providers, and um, I guess why is it essential for investment managers trying to raise assets under management to really understand, well, this company does it this way, and maybe that's what I need versus just I need a simple solution to get this data out there. And if that's the way the logic or the consideration is when choosing a vendor.
So what I think that we do very differently is, you know, we aren't just, you know, taking data from managers and pushing it out. Like we take an extremely hands-on approach. And same with the Data-Centrix platform, the way that it's built, but we take a very hands-on approach in working with every client. We do a full database review. We talk about what their goals are. We look at where they're reporting, what they're reporting. And so we use that expertise and our own experience to really guide them from where they're at to where they want to be. Our goal is to get our clients from 90 to 100% in completion. And oftentimes they're at about 50, but they're not understanding that. One of the other things that we do recognize a lot when we start working with managers and where we add a lot of value is that either their reporting is very incomplete, it's inconsistent, the way that they're reporting is incorrect. So we actually go back and do a lot of historical updating, cleansing, things like that. And so it's not like they hire us and we just give them templates and then we shoot data out for them. We're
Yeah.
really looking at every moving piece of it. And that starts at the beginning because we want to make sure that they're starting at a clean spot when they're working with us, right? And
Right.
then from that moving forward, the process is clean going forward, for lack of better wording. But it really is to get them whole, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, yeah, no, absolutely. I was going to say when you kind of shed light that they have this kind of structural issues to their data is not correct in the way it's being categorized or framed and then reported. Is that Are they a little surprised, and is that coming from something in house, or is that where's I'm sure they're caught off guard by that a little bit.
There are some that will come to us and say, you know what, we're a mess. Like we need some help. And
Sure.
so that's one piece of it. There's others that come to us that, they've been reporting and they don't realize that what they're doing is, not all, but sometimes it's incorrect. And so we have to guide them to say, hey, client types within their assets and some of those pieces, or how they're breaking down what they're reporting in terms of their representative account for their portfolio and how that ties back to some of the statistics that they're reporting. It's not always that, they don't understand all of what they're doing, but there's always these components that they're not seeing. We do have clients that, we work with that don't even look at their databases. And that's another big thing. We've taken on a number of clients, some that we're doing independent in-house, some that have come to us from other providers. And when we go back and do our initial review, and then we
Right.
start that first round of reporting, we're recognizing that, things are just not correct at all. And they don't know that because they're not looking at the databases. They're making an assumption that they're okay. And so they're, not going back and looking at what's actually in there becomes a big problem because
Yeah.
we've had to go back and redo histories back, 10 years in some cases because data is just not mapped out the way it's supposed to be. And that does impact searches. I mean, it can impact a manager in terms of even transparency of what they're putting out there versus, what they're saying they do and, what they file in their ADVs. It all comes full circle.
So as you were kind of answering that question, and I know it as a point of differentiation, um, you know, kind of that level of service, that extension of staff, and we talked about it, and I think companies are finding that very beneficial, quite different experience than what they've had before. But before I fill in all the words or the answers for you, I would say, would you say that is truly a point of differentiation for IMSS? And then, if so, what does that client and partnership look like in practice?
So we are well known for our client service. I think it's one of the biggest things we're known for, and that's where a lot of referrals come from because of the way we work with our clients. We take the very hands-on approach from the very beginning when I start talking with the client. I do my research. I know everything about them. I want to have the most productive conversation for both of us. When they come on board, we're very hands-on with them. One of the things I think that they truly appreciate about us is we're very relatable, we're very personable, and so that dynamic is just a great fit when you can get along with your clients and whatnot. But the other piece of that is, and I think the biggest piece is they can pick up the phone, they can send us an email, and we respond to them pretty quickly, almost immediately in most cases, unless we're in meetings. And if they've got an issue, we resolve it pretty fast. And a lot of that comes from having these really long-standing relationships with our direct contacts within these consultant databases, right? And so I think they have a really great appreciation for how hands-on we are with them as a client. They don't feel like we don't care, and they don't feel like they've, sitting and waiting for a day to get an answer. And I think there's a lot that's to be said from that client service side. And I am really, not just me, this whole team is very, very strong in the client service and the importance of what that means to our clients in this company.
Sure, sure. And having come from a pretty strong technology background myself, and coming here, I knew and understood that to be a true point of differentiation,
Right.
because in often cases, the focus becomes on the innovation and building more robust and keep building on the platform, and what gets overlooked is that level of service. And I've seen many times where companies have lost clients, and or companies have gained clients in many cases because they said, I just can't get that individualized help. I can't get the support I need. And I'm just looking at, great, I have a platform, but I really need help in other areas. So,
Well, it's true, because you can have the best product out there, but if you're not supporting that and you're not supporting your clients and they're getting frustrated, they're going to look for alternatives. I mean, that's just the nature of that beast. And,
yeah,
you know, it's just been the foundation of IMSS when we built it. Add in the technology, it's the second layer to that. And our technology is really great. It's robust. It's
yeah,
a rarity we ever have issues with it. We're lucky that the team that built it was phenomenal, and our clients, they love the ease of it. So and the support, right?
yeah, 100%. And again, I think some of that gets attributed to your history, your background there, having seen that back office process and kind of the headbutting that goes with trying to really manage data, and that's with any company, but especially here where it's so critical and getting business. And I guess with that, um, I guess I would ask, what are the most common database management challenges you're encountering as you kind of either onboard or kind of existing clients that they face in terms of trying to enhance their own in-house or optimize their own in-house processes? What is it you're tackling most and helping companies overcome the most?
So oftentimes when we work with managers, especially much smaller ones, they don't have the resources for these other technologies, to get the statistical data they need, their portfolio accounting system, and all of those back office other technologies that drive that reporting. So they're still doing some of their own stuff in-house manually. And so we like to be a resource for them, for other providers in the industry. So we like to have these relationships with other service providers that do some of those things as recommendations to our clients, which they love. They're looking for other cost-effective solutions like us.
That's right.
So that's part of like what we help them do, because they aren't able to report to the level that they want to, or they're piecemealing it together. And our goal is to help them really, streamline that process and reduce a lot of that burden on them. And if we can be a resource for them to finding other, like those missing pieces of the puzzle,
Right.
then we do that legwork for them, and try to connect them with other providers, and they love that. They're growing, they're small and growing just like we are, and I get it. So
Yeah, no, that's very beneficial. And again, coming from kind of a technology background, you don't see that quite often. It's just put the solution out there, and it's
right.
automated, and you don't have that personal touch or that guidance that way. So that is very unique. Um, and IMSS supports both traditional and alternative strategies globally. Can you speak more on this?
So we report, it started out doing mainly traditional SMAs. Like we were doing a lot of composite reporting across all types of strategies, international, domestic, didn't matter. And then we started getting into the alternative space, became a really big thing for us. And we're part of some alternative industry groups. And, over this last year, I would say, maybe a little more, the alternative space has really blown up for us
Yeah,
from, we're doing hedge funds, we're doing UCITS, ETFs, commodities, we're doing, we just started getting into private credit and private debt. I
right,
love that because that's something we hadn't done. So of course I did, endless hours of due diligence, really understanding that part of the market so that we could work with the client that we have. We have two. And I love it. I love it. I love that we're always learning. And so the industry is so diverse between, the types of strategies, the vehicle types, that I feel like it's a never ending learning opportunity, which I just enjoy.
sure, no, absolutely, and again, but you have that solid foundation of understanding of the data itself, and no matter if it's a new asset or new class, you have that solid foundation of how to manage that data and how to extract and report it. So,
Yeah, and it's important to that is understanding the language of what is being asked in regardless of what, you're reporting. I think a challenge with some firms, and it's just who's doing the reporting. They don't always understand what's being asked because everything is, it's the same in many ways, but it's being asked in a different way. And so a lot of confusion comes around what the databases are actually asking and what's required. And we know that when we understand it because we've been doing it so long that it's second nature to us to say, oh, that's what they're looking for. But those questions come up, often. So we become a resource on that side and saying, no, this is
sure.
actually what we need. And there's appreciation for that level of, expertise and knowledge that we can give them.
Yeah, without question. And I guess that lends itself to what I was going to ask next with, over 50 databases kind of being reported to globally. How does IMS ensure accuracy and consistency across all those platforms? And why is this critical for managers looking to maximize visibility? I think there needs to be a solid understanding of this.
So when the data comes into Data-Centrix, we have checks and balances for everything. On top of that, once we pull those automated files, we don't just put them out. We go in and we make sure the numbers make sense, everything's aligning, and the way that the outputs are built, it's a fairly quick process for us. We have these
Sure.
checks and balances internally as well. So we do look at everything when it comes in before we shove it out. And if there's an issue with something, reach out to the manager, say, hey, this isn't making sense. Can you just verify? We do it all the time. And um, and then when we push the data out, we
Hmm.
go back to make sure that the databases have actually captured everything that they are, in the way that they need to, because it is automated in bulk and whatnot. So we do
Right.
checks and balances within the databases themselves to make sure everything makes sense across the board. We want everything to tie out.
Right. And that's that 90+% completion and accuracy. Correct.
Yeah, 90 to 100% completion is our end goal with every manager we work with. I had a client, they came to us, wanted us to just do work on this investment. It was a one-off database. They were at 13%. And so hours and hours later, it took us, a little bit of time because extracting the data from them, but had them at 98% by the time we were done. And that was their sole focus for that database. So
Right. And I guess through that process too, what happens is those internal processes do get improved. The corrections occur because you're working hands on with them, and now they they have their footing, and it's much easier, and they're optimizing their efforts.
that was exactly what they were looking for, a two-part process. Can you help us clean up all internal processes so that we can get
Right.
the reporting, so we can report for ourselves, but in the meantime, can you get, this database cleaned up for us, and so that we can take it moving forward. They were a small firm, didn't really have a lot of money to spend to hire an outside provider, so decided to allocate X amount to hire us on a consulting basis to take care of that as a project.
Okay. And some of this is and some of that answers into this question, but it's really it gets down to the brass tacks of why someone would want to either outsource this or do this, and because this is an increasingly competitive space. How does the technology, Data-Centrix really help managers stand out and attract investors? Why is reporting so critical to driving that business and that bottom line?
So Data-Centrix allows the managers to really populate so much more data than they than they were. So like I said, our templates are very intuitive. So if they use these templates, build them out the way that they were meant to be, we're able to capture sometimes 30 to 40% more of the data that they were. And we all know you really need to be at 90 to 100% to have these great opportunities for these search activities, because visibility comes from those screens. And like I said, it deduces down at every different point that they start searching at. And if you're missing that middle point, you may have gotten through the first two screens or the third screen, but you're going to get
Right.
bumped on the fourth because you're missing something. And so our goal is to encompass all of those moving parts that really do apply to the strategy and what they do, and how, and it comes back to their narrative work, their narrative answers, and all of their legal things, and making sure just everything makes sense. All moving parts of the databases matter when it comes to screening, and visibility is key to that, and that's our end goal.
Right, right. And, again, you've mentioned something, there's the data, but you mentioned the narrative as well, and kind of those other um, details that go along with the reporting. And I've noticed that you tend to also talk directly to managers about their narrative, as well as providing some content around this guidance, ways they can do it better, things that they need to consider beyond just the numbers and the data being reported out. So that's
Right. The narratives should tell your story in a very clean and concise way. We see it where narratives vary across databases, and another piece that managers don't pay a lot of attention to, but the narratives tell your story, the data backs it up.
right.
And so that's really the end goal. Everything needs to tie together.
Right, right. And you have that marketing background as well. So that absolutely helps you identify and see, I'm sure. Um,
Yep.
this is
And
what I
don't
think.
forget RFPs and DDQs tie into that too. If they're direct correlation, and
Right,
databases are where an initial RFP can start. So when you're putting in your RFP, you want to match what you've got in the database. So that's why we say, we encourage our clients to look at their databases at least on an annual basis to make sure that everything makes sense. Just as a rule, we want
yeah,
them to see what we're doing too.
exactly, exactly. And I guess, we've captured quite a bit about, platform level of service. Uh, I guess what's next for IMSS and Data-Centrix? Are there any new services, features, or innovations you're excited about, or things you're looking at?
So we do have some really great things in the mix for Data-Centrix. Not going to talk much to it. We also have some other growth initiatives that we are working on and discussing for next year to expand what we do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we've ended the year, almost ended the year on just a phenomenal note. It's been like a really great 6 months for this company. We feel like we've really turned this corner. We're becoming a known quantity in the industry. People are seeing the value in what we do. And 90% of our business comes through referrals. And I love that, even though you're doing a great job at marketing. I love that the fact that people recognize, the work that we do for them is valuable. And
Right.
we are super cost effective. We are extremely hands-on. Our client service is great. We just have a great team. And I think that they value all of us and as a company for what we do. And to me, that just speaks volumes.